Adam Peters freaking leaves the 49ers. There's been talk every offseason. He's accepted interviews. People don't really know how important he is to the team. He definitely has a good reputation. I know amongst 49er media, Matt Mayoko has said, attributed a lot of really good picks and said wonderful things to him. Even more national media wise, Colin Cowherd has talked about him a couple times on his show. So he definitely has a good reputation amongst the media. But if you think about like guys like Rand Carthen got promoted ahead of him, I do wonder, is it something where he was previously turning down interviews in order to stay with the 49ers, potentially with the opportunity that John Lynch might go back to TV, or maybe doesn't interview that well, or maybe he's not as important as fans, give him credit for, and that's why these other guys were, promoted and given different positions, because he was the position he took. Maybe you have more knowledge on this, but I thought that the reason he would have gone to Washington is because, like, even if he was promoted to GM with the 49ers, John Lynch is still president of football operations. So it would be more of like a title versus like actually getting control over your team. But Washington didn't fire their guy. So it seems like he's just going to another situation where they have two GM type guys now.
So
Why
they
would he
actually,
leave the 49ers organization to do the same thing there?
so
Or are
they
they just going
actually
to hire
have
him later?
they have the Niners' old executive
Yeah.
Martin Mayhew there. So if you look at who was the important guy in the Niners situation, right? The Niners, John Lynch hired um, Adam Peters before anyone else. That was his first executive hire right away, and that was his biggest.
And try to take away the shine. My dad sent me a picture of the cake that he made. It looks really good. It's right there.
Oh, that does look good.
Sorry. If you've been here from the beginning, if you just tuned in, you're like, why are you interrupting Marco to talk about cake? But if you've been here from the beginning, we spent a solid amount of time talking about cake.
So when you look at who he hired, Adam Peters was his first one. Martin Mayhew was in that group too. And Martin Mayhew was a hire because he was a failed GM. So like John wanted to rely on him, like, hey, like I need your help, like your former GM assistants, and stuff like that. So those are the first couple of guys he hired. Now you also got to remember Adam Peters is from Cupertino, which is in like near San Jose area. I'm not too sure Bay Area logic or whatever, but
people always made it seem like he wanted to stay in the area because he was like Bay Area native.
So he grew up a Niners fan. Now it is. I know a lot of people like to talk about players he pinpointed. It's been reported, and he stated the year we drafted George Kittle. I was watching George Kittle's film. That was a guy I brought to Kyle. Like, this is a guy you would love. Sure enough, like he did that interview. He loved him. Ambry Thomas is one of those guys who's now becoming a player. Denominal Lenore is connected to Adam Peters, but it's kind of weird because we connect Adam Peters to a lot of these players because he's that late round guy, but I'm not too sure on what players he's drafted or who he did and who he didn't. Now, what it is known is he's a very good scout. He knows what he's looking for in players. He's proven. That's why the Niners had him. And I think last year...
And he is the only one with like a personnel background on the 49ers. So, like, I'm not saying that, potentially John Lynch is just really good at that naturally, but he's the only one that has had like a career long of doing that.
Absolutely. When you look at Adam, like, he obviously was with the Patriots for a little while, with Denver, with the Niners at the time. And he's one of those guys where he's there. He was very open-minded with the entire group, right? He was open-minded in the sense of, I'm going to stay as long as I can for the right opportunity before I leave. Now, what that meant was last year, he had like two teams who were offering him the position, offering the job. He had second. Right? He pulled out of it. He had second interviews with them. And he decided, you know what? I'm not going to take a position with them. I'm going to stay with the 49ers. This was an opportunity to get the number 2 overall pick, a new owner in Josh Harris, who's done a phenomenal job in terms of changing the culture in Washington. Gets to go over and he gets to run the entire football operations. And there was rumor that his title might be president of football operations. I don't
Yeah.
think that's going to be his title. I think he's going to be general manager. And then from there, he gets the opportunity to evaluate Martin Mayhew, whether he wants to fire him, demote him, make him a partner, assistant GM, or whatever the case is. But his credibility in who he is as a general manager or a executive was high. A lot of teams loved him. The 49ers are going to miss him dearly. He was a great scout
It is
for
like
them.
nerve-wracking for the 49ers too. Like they've lost a lot of their personnel over like you think last year they lost Rand Carthen. Now I think they were building someone up behind Peters, but I do wonder if like eventually because we talk about that a lot with coaches, right? Like you can only lose so many coaches before you're kind of like, oh, this is an issue. But you have to think like the 49ers could have paid him to stay. There's no salary cap on that. So but maybe it's one of those things like if you're ready for more, like if you want more responsibility, maybe the money doesn't matter. Like the 49ers could have made an offer, been like, please stay. But if he's like, John, like, I don't think John Lynch is leaving and I really want to build my own organization, maybe the money doesn't matter. But you do think that the 49ers, if he was so important in the way that I'm like concerned that potentially he could have been, you would have thought that, they would have made a really strong push to keep him. But
Yeah,
maybe they
absolutely.
did. He said no. I don't know.
Absolutely, but I think it comes down like you said, like you wanting to build his own team from the ground up. I think
Yeah.
that's important for those kind of guys, like for a general manager taking over your team, taking over a team that's already established, or building a team and establishing a Super Bowl winning team. Like that's different. Like you're
Yeah.
not taking over someone's team. You're not in the shadow of that person. So I think that's definitely something that he had thought about, and I think for him, it was all about the right opportunity and the right choice, making sure it was the right partnership with an owner, the right partnership, but understanding that he needs 6 years. You need at least 3 to 4 years to build a team, and you'll start seeing the results after those couple of years. So I think going to the Commanders and having the opportunity to draft a young quarterback, getting the head coach of your
Yeah,
choice.
with that number two, do you think that they'll trade up and try to get? Do you think Caleb Williams is like that much of a can't miss project
Um,
prospect?
I think they could try, but it's all comes down to what the Bears want to do at number one, right? Do they keep Fields or do they draft Caleb? I think that's the biggest thing is if they do trade up to one is because obviously Fields is staying in Chicago, um, or Chicago just really loves Drake May and they don't want people to know, and so they end up going to two and not trading away. So that's just there are a lot of things that could happen with the Commanders. He does have a lot of picks. Caleb Williams is not a bust, Randy. And I on the next episode we will talk about
Yeah. What?
defensive coordinators that could replace Wilkes if he leaves, but he is not a bust. And
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff on the show on Collegiate Gene Sports. I'm going to be doing a lot of film breakdowns with Josh Harper and stuff like that. We'll be talking about the draft and so if you guys do like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Josh Harper, but I'll be doing breakdowns. And Caleb Williams is actually one of the players I plan on doing pretty soon because there's a lot of conversation that he holds on to the ball too often, and he is a big play like merchant where he just all he looks for is the big play. I think that's
Oh,
not
Randy's
true.
like neither was Bryce.
I didn't
Go
think
back and
Bryce was.
forth,
I
back
didn't
and
think
forth.
Bryce was. I didn't think Bryce Young was worth the first overall pick. I didn't think he should have gone first. I thought his size and what he
The
did in
draft is a
college.
little bit of a crapshoot because freaking Trevor Lawrence was like the most can't miss. Like he was 4 years old and gonna be the best in the NFL, and he seems like he's just like he's not bad, but he's like an average starter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it all comes down to where they go, right? What system do they have in place? What do they have in place for
Yeah,
a young quarterback to
that's
succeed?
true. Like for so many players, you could potentially be, phenomenal. Like even Patrick Mahomes
Hmm.
went to the Chiefs with Andy Reid,
And they had
and when he
squad.
first got there, it was Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey
Yeah, they
and
had
a good
squad.
defense. Yeah,
So, but I think Adam
yeah, yeah.
Peters leaving is important. I think it's fine though. It kind of puts a signal that the 49ers are keeping John Lynch for the time being. So I'm excited to do it. Um, I know you have plans later
Do you think
tonight.
do you think that really quick, I know. I yeah, do you think that John Lynch is the type we talked about this with Trent Williams, right? Like if he gets a Super Bowl, will he want to retire? Do you think that John Lynch also, super incredible like if he could still be playing, he would be incredible competitor. That's why he has so many accolades in his career. Obviously came back because he, missed that sort of competition, Do you think that this for him is one of those things like I want to check it off my list? I was able to, get a Super Bowl as a player. I want to be able to get a Super Bowl as a GM, and then I'm going to go live my best life, relaxing in my, multi-million-dollar house in San Diego with my family? Or do you think this is like competition and like this drive is what wakes me up in the morning and I'm gonna keep like would he want to run it back? If do you I wonder if Adam Peters got the idea that like, hey, John Lynch isn't going anywhere within the next, year or two.
I
Because
mean,
some
I
people
think
talk about John Lynch that way. Like if he was to win a Super Bowl this year, he'd be gone. I kind of don't think so. I
I think
think that
every
when
player, every coach, every executive, if you win, you're coming back. Like, unless it's like for a head coach spot or like a GM spot, then certain people leave, but they're not the most important guys. I think John Lynch is back if we win a Super Bowl. I think he's back if we don't win a Super Bowl. I think his goals are to win a Super Bowl. Which if he does win a Super Bowl, I think it does become concerning that he does leave, and that becomes an issue if he does leave
yeah.
within the next
Because now when I have
year.
Adam Peters and I have not we, but 49ers I have Adam Peters and I have John Lynch, like stuff can get scrappy real quick.
Oh yeah. But
Real
I
quick.
know you're gonna head out for
Yes.
dinner. Make sure you guys subscribe to both channels. If you're on Clutch Gene, go to Ashley's channel. Ashley's channel. I appreciate you guys. If you guys come subscribe to Clutch Gene Sports. Randy, I know I do see your last question in the comment. I'll be doing that throughout the draft. I'll be doing a lot of draft stuff as well. I'm planning on doing a lot more than just 49er
Marco
content.
always does great draft stuff, but when I didn't even have a channel, and him and I, when the whole Debo stuff was happening, I remember he's talked to me about that forever. But
I,
oh, he said just subbed.
I
Awesome.
appreciate that. Appreciate that. But thank you
Yeah.
guys. Me and Ashley had a great time talking to a lot of you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in.
I always have such a good time talking with you. I remember in my brain because I have the dinner, I was like, oh, it'll be a shorter show, and it's always like I think these are always my longest shows because we could just talk like every conversation. I really appreciate it, Margot. Thank you guys so much. Everyone go like and subscribe. Have a great night.